and welcome back to Flossmas number 3 on my journey with my 12 days of Flossmas. I'm so glad you are back. I'm Stephanie, I'm the On Point Stitcher, and I'm ready to go with today's stitching. I just want to say a big thank you to those of you that have been following my 12 days of Flossmas and have been watching the videos and commenting and letting me know how much you are enjoying these. It made me very happy because this is a little different than most Flossmas videos, so I'm very glad to hear that you are all enjoying them. Today's Advent animal is Miss Mary Mouse, and I'm sure some of you are wondering, okay, what is Stephanie going to talk about today when it is a mouse? Well, Miss Mary Mouse and I have a lot in common. We both love ballet, and we both have been mouse queens. So I'm not kidding. I've actually been a mouse queen. I'll make sure to leave a photo at the end of this video, but a couple of years ago, my kids and I were in the Nutcracker, and our company was very small, and my friend that usually plays Madame Mousekewitz had hurt her back so tremendously that she had to have surgery. So I got to be the mouse queen that year for the Nutcracker. I was Madame Mousekewitz, and my friend Melissa, that typically would play Madame Mousekewitz, was there with me the entire way. She was backstage encouraging me. She would have my shoes ready because I had a lot of costume changes for the Nutcracker that year. I had to keep on changing from one kind of shoe to another, and she would help me with my hair and my headpieces and just have things ready to go for me so that we could keep on going and I didn't have to stress about a thing. I even had a very special backstage dressing room that was specifically just for me because I had too many costume changes that year and I could not make it to the dressing room in time to be able to make all of my costume changes. So it was pretty amazing. Even though she wasn't able to be in the Nutcracker that year, she was still there with us, helping us the whole way through, and it was just a blessing to have her. It was wonderful. Being Madame Mousekewitz takes a big personality, so you have to decide who you're going to be before coming on stage, because her entrance coming on stage is a big moment when the music just comes to life and she comes on stage announcing herself and completely leaving her Mouse King in the dust. And so the character that I decided to do was very much like the Red Queen from Alice in Wonderland. She is all about herself, and although she takes into consideration her king's advice, it is still her way or no one's way. Upon the glorious entrance of Madame Mousekewitz, she also has her mouse children there awaiting her arrival, and also on stage awaiting her arrival is the Nutcracker and his soldiers. Now, that year, my youngest daughter got to play one of the soldiers, and she had so much fun playing that part because during the choreography, the director put her just in the right spot at the end of the line that she got a very special part. Now, although there are soldiers there on the stage, Madame Mousekewitz knows that she can overpower those tin soldiers just with the sweep of her sword. So she kind of ignores them, and she is showered with gifts from her adoring family. They give her a beautiful diamond necklace that she puts on and she struts about and shows it off to everyone. And as she is ignoring the tin soldiers think, now just a minute there, we are on a mission and you are ignoring us. We are supposed to be in the midst of a battle. And so Madame Mouskowitz gets shot in the behind with a cork gun by a tin soldier. And you got it, that tin soldier happened to be my daughter. Madame Mouskowitz falls to the ground, and upon getting up and finding that she is actually in fact okay, looks around only to find that it was the Nutcracker that told his tin soldiers to fire their weapons upon Madame Mouskowitz. Madame Mouskowitz does not appreciate the fact that the Nutcracker has declared war against her and her mice. And so upon finding the Nutcracker behind this declaration of war, she pulls out her sword and prepares her mice for battle. She gathers up her mice and gets them into position, and they attack the tin soldiers. However, the tin soldiers are ready for battle themselves, and they return in kind. Madame Mouskowitz never thought anyone would ever defy her. So when those tin soldiers were there at the ready to go to battle, Madame Mouskowitz wasn't sure what to do. She quickly put her mice into a formation and told them to attack. But those tin soldiers were ready, and they attacked back. Surprised and taken aback, she gathers her mice and puts them in a better formation and sends them off again. But again, here they come. Those tin soldiers, they're too strong. They keep coming back. Madame Mouskowitz pleads with the Mouse King to come and help, but he's too busy paying attention to how delicious his big hunk of cheese is. So Madame Mouskowitz has to do it on her own. She jumps in front of her children and pushes back those tin soldiers and declares that she and the Nutcracker would have it out. So away into battle Madame Mouskowitz went against the Nutcracker Prince. But she was no match for that prince, no matter how hard she tried. She thought she had him, but lo and behold, suddenly, out of nowhere, she was hit on the head and fell in a dizzy spell to the ground. When she got back up, she was still dizzy, and she fell upon the sword of the Nutcracker. And that was the end of Madame Mouskowitz. So I know what you're thinking. That is a mouse and Nutcracker battle like I have never heard before. And you are absolutely right. Now, the great thing about being in a smaller company is that the director does have a little more intake on how he wants to make that story. And he still does his Nutcracker this way, where he is, he wanted to take the story and the history of the city, and he wanted to implement that more into his story of the Nutcracker. And so at the time when he was casting his Nutcracker, he didn't have enough men to play the Nutcracker and the Rat King, and so he changed it to have a Mouse Queen, and yes, she has a Mouse King on stage, but the gentleman that always played the Mouse King is Melissa's brother, and he does not dance. He is a wonderful actor and an amazing engineer, but he is not a dancer. And so he would come on stage and he would help us out, and he would have a great personality and great character brought on stage. but he wasn't a dancer, and so we had to work around that. And after that first year that they had Melissa playing the Mouse Queen, they just fell in love with that dynamic, and so they just kept it up. And so it was a huge undertaking to try to become that character. And it was a blast to do. There was so much that I was able to do on stage, and the big personality that you could have on stage was there. And it was so enjoyable. I truly missed being able to be in the Nutcracker this year. I'm really hoping to do it next year with my daughter. We're going to be looking for a Nutcracker to be in, and I'm super excited about that. Now, believe it or not, this was not the first time that I have been a mouse on stage. The first time that I was ever a mouse on stage, I was about 12 or 13 years old, and I had just started taking pas de deux, which is dancing with a partner. I was actually already part of a company at that time. I was part of the corps. And so when you're part of the corps, you do all of the kind of background dances and things like that. So if you go see the Nutcracker, then the snowflakes or the flowers or all the background dancers, that would be considered the corps. And then the other dancers, they're a different part of the company. But at the time, I was part of the corps, and we were doing Noah's Ark. And so there were cats, there were different types of animals. However, that year I was a country field mouse. And my class, there was about 6 or 8 of us, I think. But the guys had to wear these giant face masks, and they covered their entire head. And then us ladies, we got to wear just these really cute little masks instead. We were really lucky. And I remember that we didn't practice with the masks on the guys until it was like 2 or 3 weeks away from the performance. And so they had these masks on, and we had to basically relearn our dance like 2 or 3 weeks out to performance because their masks were so big that we kept on getting hit in the face from them turning their head. And so we had to learn how to do all of our dance in a different way so that our faces were either going the same direction, or we were facing the same direction, or opposite directions so that no one would get hurt. That was such a fun dance to do with Chase and all of my other friends. We were able to do lots of square dancing in that, and we did a lot of little lifts and some movements across the floor, and the music was quick and airy and just kind of kept you on your toes, kept you moving, kept you happy. It was so much fun to do that one. But to be honest, I truly loved helping my mom create the costume more than I enjoyed doing the dance on stage, because I loved being able to sit with my mom and do those kind of projects. And so I have to say that that was probably the best memory that I have. And I still have that costume, and believe it or not, it still kind of fits. I have used it so many times for Halloween costumes and just whenever I feel like putting on something funny and being goofy. But we're coming to the end of this video, and I just want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to me ramble and reminisce again and think about things and share those with you. I have truly enjoyed being able to share some stories with you, and I'm sure that these aren't exactly what you were thinking you were going to hear when you saw Miss Mary Mouse here up next. And I'm so glad that I had some stories to share with you that had to do with mice. Now, speaking of Miss Mary Mouse, let's go ahead and jump in and talk about her for a minute. I did use the called for DMC colors for Mary Mouse, and luckily I did have all those colors on hand this time. I did have to go digging out a couple of projects and grab a couple of threads here and there so that I'd have those colors, but she turned out really cute. I'm really happy with her. I did make some changes, as you may have noticed. You may have not, but that's okay. I was rambling. So I did change the color of her tail. Her tail was supposed to be black, and I changed it to one of the pink colors. It was either 760 or 761. And then I did also change her slippers from green to red. I wanted her slippers to match her tutu a little more, and so it was just a little personal preference. So there is Miss Mary Mouse, all set to go for her part in the Nutcracker. And I just want to say thank you so much for being here, for listening to me ramble, and for watching me create this adorable little mouse by Brooks Books Collection. And I will see you next time. Happy Flossmas!